Hi. Hi, I'm Ken. I'm going to read a story tonight, which I've written. I've written lots of stories for kids and they all appear on my YouTube channel, Kenneth Mallison. This is one of them. It's called Ella and the Magic Paintbrush. Now, it's not a new story. In fact, it's quite a few years old. Back in ancient China, it was written. It was called the Magic Paintbrush then, but it's my version of this old story. And that's not new either, because most of the fairy tales we know today are based on Chinese stories. For example, Red Riding Hood is based on a Chinese fable called The Panther. It's much more gory than our version, but it's the same idea. Also, Jack and the Beanstalk, that's loosely based on the Magic Box, which again is my version is on the YouTube channel. So here we go with my story, Ella and the Magic Paintbrush. Ella and the Magic Paintbrush. A story for young children by Ken Mallison. Ella lived with her mother in one small room in a very drab house in a very drab street in London. Her real name was Eliza, but everyone called her Ella, except her mum. They were very poor and sometimes had nothing to eat. The room had very little furniture and Ella did not have a real bed. She had to sleep on a bed of straw. Because they were so poor, Ella could not go to school, so she found maths and English very difficult. However, Ella was very good at drawing. Ella loved to draw, but she had no pencils or brushes to use, so she drew pictures in the dirt with a stick. Sometimes when Ella went for a walk, she passed a house where she could see several boys sat at easels painting pictures. Once, she looked in the room, and the man teaching them shouted at her and said, "Get away, you dirty girl. This is only for rich people." Ella was very upset. They made her cry and she ran home. When she got home, she sat outside her house drawing pictures in the dirt. When a lady came up to her and said, "That's a very good drawing you have done. Why don't you paint some paper?" Ella told her she did not have any paper or brushes as they could not afford them. When she heard this, the lady took a paper from her bag and gave it to Ella. She said, "Take this, it is a magic paintbrush. When you paint something, it will become real, but you must only paint things you need, not what you want. And there are some things which you cannot paint." Ella turned round to ask the lady what she meant, but she had disappeared. Ella thought, "That's stupid, but I do have a brush now. What I need is some paper and paints." Ella used the brush to draw a box of paints in the dirt, and suddenly there it was, a real box of paints. She was amazed to see this and realised it was a magic paintbrush. "What I need now is some paper," she thought, and drew a large piece of paper in the dirt. Once again, the drawing turned into real paper. Ella was very excited and rushed in to tell her mother. She said, "Mum, a lady gave me this paintbrush and it's a magic. Anything I paint with it becomes real." Her mum said, "Don't be silly, Lisa. You can't make things like that." To show she was telling the truth, Ella painted a small bed on a piece of paper, and in a flash, a real bed stood where Ella's pile of straw had been. It's hard to believe, but her mother knew she was telling the truth. Ella used the brush to paint some more furniture for the room. Then she tried to paint some money for her mother, but this time it did not work. Then she remembered that the lady had said there were some things which could not be made. Money was one of these. Ella didn't mind. At least they had a comfortable room. The next day, Ella was walking along the street when she saw a poor man sat at the side. He only had one leg and looked very unhappy. Ella thought, "I painted a new leg for him," and she painted the leg on her paper. Once again, it did not work, so she realised she could not paint live things. Instead, she painted a false leg for him. When Ella gave him the leg, the man was overjoyed and thanked her. Ella was happy that she had been able to help him. When Ella got back to the small room she lived in, she looked around and thought, "I wonder if I could paint a house for me and Mum." Ella sat down and started to paint. She painted a small, pretty cottage in the countryside, with flowers in a small garden. As soon as she had finished painting, she looked round and saw that she really was in the cottage. Her mum hugged her and said, "Ella, this is wonderful." They were happy. Her mum got a small job in a nearby farm, and they had enough money for their needs. If they needed anything else, Ella could paint it. Each day, Ella would go for a walk in nearby fields and sit down to do some painting with real brushes, not the magic brush. One day, she decided to try her magic brush again and painted a pretty rose bush, and the real rose bush appeared. A rich man was passing by on his horse and saw what Ella had done. He thought, "That's magic. If she could make a rose bush, she could pay money for me. I'll soon be the richest man in town." He grabbed Ella and threw her across his horse and galloped away to his house. When he got home, he ordered Ella to paint a pot of gold. Ella refused, and he locked her in a room with only one window. The window had bars across it, so she could not escape, and it was very cold. The man said, "I will keep you there without food until you pay me some gold." When he went away, Ella was very hungry, so she painted herself a sandwich and painted a fire to keep herself warm. Then she painted a new window in the wall and a rope ladder to climb down. She quickly escaped and ran home. The next morning, the man came to open the door, but Ella had painted a big bar across it so he could not get in. He banged angrily at the door, then ran at the door to break it. The door crashed open, and he saw that Ella had escaped. As he ran to the window, he knocked over the fire. The house quickly caught fire, and the house and the man were destroyed. When Ella got home, she thought about the house where she painted to. It was a very large mansion, and she thought it'd be lovely. She decided she'd like to live in a mansion like that. "I'll paint one," she said. Ella began to paint, and soon she had painted a very big mansion. But as soon as she finished, it disappeared. Ella wondered why this happened. Then she remembered what the lady had said. "Paint only what you need, not what you want." She realised she didn't need a mansion, as she already had a nice home. After that, Ella did not use her magic paintbrush much, but her paintings, painted with real brushes, were very popular, and she was able to sell them. Ella and her mother lived very happily in the small cottage. They had everything they needed. The end. Well, that's my version of the magic paintbrush. If you enjoyed it, then have a look at my YouTube channel, Kenneth Mallison, and look at perhaps the magic box. There are lots and lots of stories I've written there, from young children like The Little Goldfish up to older children, adventure stories with solving puzzles like Trapped in the Pyramids or Escape from the Haunted Mansion. There are quite a lot of stories you could pick from. So I've left all the writing on the screen in the story so you can read the stories to your children. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope you'll look at the other stories. I write them for my grandchildren, but they're okay for most kids. So bye for now, and I'll probably speak to you again. Bye.